Good day, everybody. For those of you who have subscribed already, thank you very much. For those of you who are just popping in and this is your first video, please go ahead and check out the rest of my videos in all my playlists. And if you enjoy or you feel the content is great, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. So today I have to show you this model. I've been holding off showing you this model because this is kind of one of my better ones, I guess. I have done quite a few conversions that, again, if you go check out my how-to playlist, you'll see tons and tons of conversions. But this one is really good. So today, the reason I'm showing you this, it is a complete conversion. I do not have the videos of me actually in process of converting this. This was already complete by the time I decided to kind of start this YouTube stuff. So I am going to do sort of a reverse engineering of this one, and I'm going to go through highlights and pinpoint where I use certain parts from other kits. I'm going to show you where I scratch built things and so on. Okay, so let's get into this. So this is a Nemesis Dread Knight kit. That's what I use for the base. It's kind of obvious. Most of you who play 40K will instantly recognize that's what I used as the base. I took an old metal orc knob from the old metal knobs that used to come in the old clamshells when GW back in the day used to sell all their miniatures in the little packs or the little clamshells. I split his legs open a little bit underneath here, and I did sculpt, so even if you look underneath there, it looks good. It's not a hack job. So anyway, I had to open the legs up a little bit, spread those out. I cut his waist because I had to get a little bit more length into the orc, so his arms would fit into the little slots there, and his shoulders would match up with the little restraints that are supposed to be for the Terminator that's supposed to be in there, or the Space Marine. I went ahead, because I split the body, I went ahead and so it didn't look funny, so his torso was long, or like some of the muscle was gone in his stomach. So we went ahead and we did some armor plating. And the armor plating is done with just standard poster board. You guys know how I use poster board to bend and sculpt and shape. And then once I get it in the right position, I go ahead and I use thin super glue and harden it or turn it into plastic, because the poster board soaks in that super glue. And then when it dries, it ends up being really hard like plastic, and it ends up holding the shape that you put it in. So this whole kind of front breastplate or tabard or midsection, we did that again for dual purpose. One, to hide the middle like we already talked about, and to kind of give it some orc flair. So moving on to the top, we went ahead and we did the shoulder pads, the armored shoulder pads using cardboard. As I've told you, if you could take, depending on what type of cardboard you get, if you take a piece of cardboard, you can separate the cardboard, and because it's corrugated, you can get the corrugated tin roofing look. So again, a little bit of tin roofing here, a little bit of tin roofing here. The superstructure, as you can see here, was one tube that runs from here all the way underneath to right here on both sides. That is kind of the basis for the superstructure to hold that shoulder pad. Cut it out. Again, this is all cardboard and poster board up here. Hooked up the Dread Knight limbs or actuators. Plugged them into his arm like we're supposed to. This gun came from the orc aircraft kit. And these are just extra little bits and pieces. But this base is from that kit. In order to get it to fit, we cut the Nemesis Dread Knight wrist and hand off right at that section right there where I'm pointing at. Got that to be perfectly flat. So then when you marry up this orc gun, it ended up fitting perfectly. I added this section to the front, a little front sight post, a little section here, just to extend the gun a little bit longer, make it a little bit bigger. Up top, let's go up top. Up here, these are from Gaskell, the old metal model. These are his stick launches that he had on his Mega Armor. These are the boom bits. So as you know, a Mega Dread, if you go check the Forge World profile, he has boom bits, which are kind of like flamers. They act as flamers. So I went ahead and gave him 2 boom bits and put them on top. Now, getting back to the Orc's front, this here is something that I believe, again, is very unique. You will not find this on any other Orc conversion. This is also out of the aircraft kit. And I took this and put this in front of this Orc's face, just above his eye line, because I still wanted you to see the main part of his chin and his cheek and his head. But this is his heads-up display. So when I was going to paint this and finish this, I would have done everything in my painting standard, but the last thing I would have done is I would have highlighted right around his eyes and his head area with a little tap of white to make it look like the heads-up display was glowing back on his face. Anyway, long story short, so that's his heads-up display. I plugged it in here, did a little sculpting of material. You can see I put the rivets, extended this a little bit, sculpted this so this would plug in and look like it was wires coming out in a heads-up display and was seamless. His 2 arms are also metal knob arms, but the metal knob arms, both sides, left and right, were using the close combat weapons from the Orc metal knobs kits. That way it ended up being just a stick and there was no pistol or no gun. Made it a lot easier to put the controllers into his hands or turn these into controllers. Have the wires going in, plugged in here, same location. Added a light from a Space Marine Rhino. I believe that's from a Rhino kit. Or could be even from a Land Raider kit. That's just a regular Space Marine light. Let's go to the legs. So in the legs, I took off most of the armor plating of the Nemesis Dread Knight because they had too much roundness and curvature. And Orcs really don't duplicate that, or at least in my eyes or in my opinion, right? Just think about it. Orcs, they hammer and bend things into position. They're not really into finesse and how clean the Nemesis Dread Knight armor looked. So what we did is we come in here and we put his little side plates, little side skirt plate to cover the actuators, little front plate, little plate over his knee. All this is poster board. All handmade, scratch built, glued on with little standoffs underneath here to get the distances correct. All extra armor plating. Same thing on both sides, little cut work, a little orkiness, little square riveting, which really makes the Orc conversion stand out when you go to the square rivets, not necessarily the GW round type rivets. Where next? Okay, so let's move on. Let's move on over here. Let's get to the claw. So again, cutting this at the wrist, making this flat, plugging a small tube into that opening that would give me the basis to create a gear or a kind of an arm that would twist. This is all hand and scratch built claws out of poster board. This center section in here, again, all hand scratch built out of poster board and stir sticks and just anything I could basically get my hands on that would be a strengthening factor. These tubes are just square or just plastic tubes. Another plastic tube in here, again, showing you the details. So if you guys have an idea or you guys want to do something like this, I'm just showing you so you can go ahead and copy it. I don't mind. Okay, moving on. These hydraulics, these are all just poster board standoffs. And what a standoff is it's a standoff. It's like a metal bracket that you weld onto something that allows you to put something else on, right? So they're just called a standoff. These tubes come from the Q-tips that I've showed you before. They have a hole, right, or a plastic center, very thin, easy to cut. The pistons, which are here, these pistons are this material, $3.99 evergreen polystyrene 1/16 rod. And that 1/16 rod happens to fit into these Q-tips perfectly. Again, these little standoffs, or not standoffs, these little rings, all these are is just another piece of plastic that goes at each end of the piston to make it look like it's an actual actuator. So here is some more standoffs. If you can see here, this is how I connected each piston to each blade of his claw. And then more work. Basically hammering, riveting, getting those into position. And then even inside, we have another piston that's running both these claws at the same time through a single point or single joint right in the middle. So again, if you guys get any good ideas or you want to copy, go ahead. So again, Nemesis Dreadnought arm as the base, cut it at the wrist, and start doing your work. So the last piece we're going to cover is the back engine deck and the exhaust. So as you can see, most of this is all Nemesis Dreadnought in the back. I didn't want to mess with them. That is orky enough. Extra pistons are always good. Extra little wires, anything you can do back there, always good. So this engine deck piece that I added, this is from the old, super old plastic Scorcha kit. This is the old buggy, like 1997 or 98, super old. I had this laying around because I did have some old buggies. I tore it off and I put it back here. Gives me an extra exhaust. This piece right here is from a pen cap or a what do you call it? A felt tip marker or felt pen. Let me find it here. So example like this. So you see how this has a couple step downs is what we're going to call them. So, you know, here, those are step downs. And then if you cut it right there at an angle, right, you get a nice looking exhaust. These exhausts back here, I did nothing fancy, basically plug them in right into the top. And then, as I've showed you in other videos, you use copper wire, right? That size, you have this size copper wire, right? And this size. This stuff can be bought at any Home Depot or any type of place that sells hardware. This is just house wiring. This stuff here could be used and bent into position. Looks like any kind of tubing. You can twist it, you can do whatever you want with it, and once you get it into that position, it pretty much stays. It's got enough rigidity that it'll stay. So you can bend it like that, and boom, it stays. Straighten it out, and it stays. So basically, I took the Nemesis Dreadnought kit, stuck these tubes, or this wire, into the tops of the exhaust that was already existing. Then just took plastic rings and spacers and little rivets and started to kind of plastic spacer, rivet, cut this top tube at a different angle, split this one like it was an explosion or something happened, put some metal plates around it. And that's how I did the exhaust. So I think that's going to wrap this one up. That's long enough. We've probably got 15 minutes or so of good, solid video. I just wanted to show you this one, and I wanted to get this one out there on YouTube before I give it over to my friend. Again, really good home, really good guy. Hope he gets great use out of it. I'm going to miss this one, though. Man, this is a good one. So like we always say, guys, like, subscribe, hit that like button, smash that like button, hit that subscription button if you like this content. Go check out some of my other stuff. Hit that notification button if you want to see some more of my stuff and want to get a notification each time I do an upload. But we're going to wrap this one up. I just wanted to get this one up into YouTube and get this one out there so you guys can see it. Leave your comments, please. I do respond to comments. I like hearing from you guys. I do take requests. If you got any ideas or you want me to, talk or work on something for you, I'll do that too. The last video I just uploaded, we did some barrels for a gentleman, a subscriber who went ahead and asked me, hey, hook him up, show me how I do barrels. Had no problem with that. Again, subscribe, hit that notification button. And like we always say on the channel, may all your dice rolls come up sixes unless you're looking for a one. Peace out, fellas.